Over the past year, I've been pretty transparent about the worst performing investment in my portfolio. Medical Properties Trust is currently my biggest loser in terms of percentage loss, not total dollar amount. This REIT has been battling a couple of big issues over the last couple years, including one of their largest investments, Steward Healthcare, which is still suffering from COVID-era financial issues. Then there's also been an ongoing attack on their stock by short sellers. Much like Gamestop, AMC, and Trump Media, where we've seen large groups of investors pumping tons of money into them to drastically raise their share prices, we've been seeing the exact opposite with MPW by people short selling it. At one point, MPW was one of the most shorted stocks in the entire stock market, right up there with other companies like Carvana and Tattooed Chef, which I'd argue were suffering from far more dire situations. After more than a decade of share price growth and regular dividend increases, starting in 2022, MPW stock cratered as the market turned its back on them. In the past 5 years, the share price of MPW collapsed by more than 75%, going from about $25 per share in early 2022 to less than $4 per share just a couple days ago. In late 2022, after the share price had already fallen considerably, I decided to make a small investment in this REIT, as I felt like the reason the share price had fallen so hard was due to the short sellers, not because MPW was going to collapse. I also believe the issues surrounding Steward Health would work themselves out because politicians aren't just going to let every hospital in their county to go out of business. I was pretty confident that politicians would be willing to assist Steward in some way when it came to repaying their debt. Ultimately though, things kept getting worse for MPW, and like I said, I'm down more percentage-wise from this than anything else I currently hold. Today it currently makes up less than 1% of my portfolio, so I haven't really been in a rush to do anything with MPW. On Wednesday though, we finally got a piece of good news that we had been waiting for. Shortly before the market opened, it was announced that Steward Health would be selling a large part of their property portfolio to pay off the debt that they owed to Medical Properties Trust. Steward Healthcare, the hospital operator grappling with financial issues under Medical Properties Trust portfolio, struck a deal to offload its physicians network to United Health's Optum Care arm, according to a media report dated Wednesday. The proposed sale of the managed care business, called Stewardship Health, aligned with Steward's effort to strengthen its national network of 33 hospitals following financial setbacks last year, which resulted in overdue bills and rents. This news caused the share price of MPW to soar more than 18% during the trading day, as the market saw this as really great news for the company. The announcement did come with some pretty angry politicians. Massachusetts Senators Elizabeth Warren and Ed Markey weren't happy about Steward making this announcement, claiming that it could lead to worse conditions for hospital patients. Plus, they're concerned about United Health being the largest employer of doctors in the US, which, apparently, I guess is a problem. But there's really not much they can do about it though. Steward Health has to do something to repay their debts without going bankrupt, and this was probably the best option that exists. This transaction, if it's successfully completed, is going to have a profound impact on Medical Properties' future. In January, it was reported that this REIT was pressuring Steward Health to take more drastic actions to repay their past due rent, which had totaled to roughly $50 million. One of those actions included selling a portion of their properties, which we now know is the route the company is taking. According to the article on Wednesday, Medical Properties Trust said the proceeds from the aforementioned sale would enable Steward to repay all outstanding obligations to MPW. So this is obviously great news for the company, as Steward Health is still their largest tenant. Although they only make up 8% of their 439 properties, Medical Properties' investment in Steward Health is massive. From a total asset perspective, Steward represents 19% of MPW's portfolio. So again, this is really great news that'll hopefully squash all of these short sellers. But despite the dramatic share price gains, the future regarding Medical Properties Trust is still largely uncertain. Last month, the company suspended their guidance, which can mean several different things but is almost always not good news. As a result, the company did not announce a dividend during their previous earnings announcement, which is something that they always do. So to get a better understanding of what's been going on, I find it's pretty useful to listen to a company's latest earnings call. At the very beginning of the call, CEO Ed Aldag made the following statement, quote, "The board will meet later this quarter to discuss the dividend. The board's policy on the dividend remains unchanged. As has always been the case, the board will review all aspects of the company, including items such as FFO payout ratios, REIT requirements, and liquidity." On the call, the board made it pretty clear that they were really serious about trying to get Steward to sell a part of their real estate to pay past due rent. Later on the call, an analyst tried getting some more information on the status of their dividend. Although I feel like the analyst didn't really do a good job in asking his question, and Aldag didn't really go into too much detail, but this is how the conversation went. "I think you said on the call, correct me, but last payment was I think about 25% of the contractual rent. But what about the prior period where they made partial payments? Like, just maybe back up and give us a sense of what's been backlogging so far. There must be a link, but I'm just trying to bridge that between where you see the dividend going, because it feels like at this point, the proceeds for the dividend or not paying the dividend would probably be beneficial. So I'm just trying to think about what they have actually paid and what's the backlog. Aldag replied, I'll start with the end of that question, and the dividend is not dependent on Steward's rent. It's more dependent on our ability to close on some of these liquidity transactions. All rent was 100% paid as of the end of the third quarter 2024, and any rent that is not paid was October and thereafter. So there's a mixture of good and bad news going on here. Steward has been successful at paying some of their past due rent up until last October. It was worse, but the situation is getting better, and Steward is being more responsible by taking drastic actions to pay their debts. But the bad news is that, judging by what was said on their earnings call, the sale of these buildings is going to be pretty important for the future of their dividend payments, at least into the foreseeable future. It does sound possible that their dividend could be temporarily suspended until this sale goes through, which is something that could take months. If the dividend does in fact need to be suspended for a period, we also don't yet know what the new dividend could be. But another big positive in this situation is that this should stop these short sellers from attacking this company. Steward is the only problem child in their portfolio, and according to this article, this should resolve all of the issues regarding their debt. Once these properties get sold and MPW collects the money, that means that they can start growing and rebuilding their portfolio again. So although we could be looking at a period where there's no dividend payments, the share price should continue to climb for this company, especially as interest rates will likely get cut this year, which will benefit all REITs. Sometimes when a company announces a dividend cut, it's often met with a sell-off in share price. However, if the market does believe a company would be better off not paying a dividend in order to save some money, then I've seen that actually increase a stock's share price, so it's really on a case-by-case basis. You might be wondering what my plan is for this holding. Although I do believe the share price for MPW will keep recovering, I'm still concerned about the dividend. Ultimately, I'm an investor seeking income, and I don't like to buy stocks just for price growth. Again, we don't know if they will have to suspend their dividend for a while or if they will have to lower it again. I wouldn't be interested in buying more MPW if the dividend was reduced again. To be honest, I've largely moved on from this company. Although I don't plan to sell it, I have my sights on building other holdings in my portfolio. I might sell my shares at some point if the share price does recover to where it was in late 2022, or if the dividend survives, I'll likely continue to hold it. But finally, after 2 years, it looks like better times are finally ahead for Medical Properties Trust. It's been a long wait, but hopefully as of now, the future is going to be brighter. But with that being said, that's going to conclude today's video. If you'd like to connect and also see what's inside my own personal dividend portfolio, then feel free to check me out over on our Patreon, where you'll receive updates and be able to talk to me and other higher yielding dividend and income investors. But with that being said, thank you all so much for watching today's video, and until next time, take care.